Hey, so today we're going to be talking about Moyos, and yeah, I had a lot of questions, or I got some requests to do a game about Moyo, or to talk about Moyos and see how to use them, how to defend against them, and all that stuff. So I was looking through games today to find something to talk about today, and there are a lot of games that are really cool about how Moyo, like with Moyos in them, but none of them are really that instructional. Like there's this really cool game between Takemiya and Rinkaiho, where Takemiya just builds this huge 100-point Moyo, but I don't know if that's too useful for other people because Rin never contests it too much. Anyway, so this game is between actually Kitani and Hasegawa Akira, and it's kind of weird to talk about Kitani as a Moyo player because towards the end of his life, most of his games were all very territorial. He wasn't really a Moyo player, but yeah, he was when he first not first started playing, but when he was in the 30s, he was playing really center-oriented games, kind of like that with the new Fuseki and everything. And you'll see that pretty quickly from this game. But it's still very instructional to see how you kind of use the Moyons, use the influence to accomplish what you're trying to get. So this was pretty normal. Again, this is from the new Fuseki era, so some of the moves are a little not normal. Like R10 is not so normal, but it's an idea, right? It's approaching White's 2 stones to try to reduce the influence they can have. And the next move is even less normal. White's like, oh, you're gonna play low, I'm going to come from the center and build this center area, which is pretty ambitious. You wouldn't see this these days anymore, but it's what was played. So Black defends. Black is playing a fairly territorial game. He's just building his points. It's still not really clear how P9 is going to work. Now it's a little bit more clear. White ends up trying to build this huge framework at the bottom, and Black continues solidifying the upper right side. Another style of play would be to, Black could come in and then push. This is another way. Black could contest White's Moyo with his own, but Hasegawa is playing a very territorial but thick style. He wants to just enclose his own points, which is fine. Kitani plays here. This is a really crucial point. Let's say, for instance, Kitani defends some like this. Then when Black plays here, this is the border point of 2 Moyos, right? Black gets to press White down, so then the following border of White's Moyo is something like this. In comparison, when White gets to play this cap, the Moyo starts to build outward, right? It starts to take this large shape. It moves, it can keep expanding. It's not being pressed down together. So when you're playing a Moyo strategy, this is really important, because if you lose the boundary point of your Moyo to an opponent's framework, then your Moyo will get shrunk really quick, and it usually becomes very painful to have to play like that. Black comes in. This is typical. White's, Kitani's still focusing on his big Moyo strategy. He's going to build this area really big. That's what his plan is. Black tries to cut. Kitani, so this move is offering an exchange, saying you can connect, but then your Saturn stone will be cut off, and it'll be a fight. Black doesn't want to connect. Black wants to break into the center. So it becomes this kind of shape. Kitani finds a very nice Tesuji for linking. This is, at this point it reverts to a normal kind of Tesuji shape, but it's still remarkable to find these kind of moves. So white finishes the wall, and even is going to Atari here and sacrifice the corner. So white basically has given black, and white plays here. White gave black pretty much the whole right hand side in exchange for building this Moyo. So this whole game is focused on Kitani being able to capitalize and benefit on this Moyo. If Kitani doesn't use his thickness or his framework well, the game will be over pretty quickly. So if we're looking at this as black, we have a few options. We could invade at a few different points. We could also play a reducing move. And a lot of players, especially Q players, they don't like to play reducing moves because, well, reducing moves are very hard to handle. They're in the center, and they kind of float, and they're not clear how they're going to work. But the benefit of a reducing move is you're not going to fall under an attack, usually, or under too severe an attack. Whereas, also the benefit of a reducing move is it prevents your opponent from building a stronger position. If you play a reducing move, your opponent can defend against it, but the reducing move kind of keeps the impact of what the thickness can do. Whereas if you invade and your opponent's like attacking, then they get all these stones on the outside. And that wall that they build from attacking is usually thicker and stronger unless your opponent's attacking kind of recklessly. So black opts to invade, and white sticking again to placing emphasis again on the center. If this were a more normal game, white could probably play like this. But white doesn't want to play like this because now black is running up and into white's center area. So white is again focused on developing the center. Black invades. This is very common for this corner shape because the F5 stone doesn't protect the corner. And this is almost a Joseki. Almost. It's very critical to note these stones are, all of white's stones on the left are high, which means white's not invested very much on the left hand side either, which is very risky for normal Go, but it means that white doesn't need to answer the B6 stone. Black needs to play B6 in order to live, or at least in order for white not to get B6 in Sente. But white doesn't have to play there, so white takes Sente again to try developing this huge center. Like, this is really huge. So the main question I got yesterday was how do you defend a Moyo, right? How do you deal with when your opponent invades or attacks? So the first thing you have to do when your Moyo is not very thick, right? So when black invaded at F3, the right hand side is pretty thick, but these stones are not so thick. Maybe if these a little bit. These definitely are not thick. So you can't try to attack very severely. You have to decide, okay, I have to be able to I have a framework, so I can control how my opponent's going to move. But I don't have the strength to really push too hard. I just have to guide them in a certain direction so I can build, my own strength. And you want it to make it so that the strength you build falls in line with the rest of your plan. So when Kitani caps here, his plan is to develop the center. And when black invades, then he gets strength. His left-hand side becomes much stronger. And this left-hand strength and the right-hand strength work together to create this Moyo in the center. Okay, and then so white plays, Kitani plays this surrounding move, which is probably the only way to really play here. If white tries to reduce black, the trade is probably not so good for him because black will counterattack. Okay, so black invades. What do we do? It's very difficult to deal with this invasion because there are holes here and here, and some aji over here, and holes over here, right? This is very sketchy. If I recall, Kitani plays elsewhere, yeah. So it's very hard to directly attack the black stone, and if you attack it right away, black's going to defend it right away, right? So if you like try to surround it, then black will, I don't know what black will do. Black might hane here for aji, test what white's going to do if white cuts, then maybe attach and crosscut, and now it's hard to defend this gap and this potential Atari out. There are a lot of holes, and it's very difficult to figure out what the best way to play is. So the real key point of once you have the thick position, right, there's a framework, the loose moyo, and then you have a moyo that has thickness. This is, now that you've developed a moyo that has thickness out of a loose moyo, at this point, it all comes down to your ability to attack, or your fighting strength. And a very common way to attack is a leaning attack. You press on a different direction, build strength there, and then so that your follow-up attack is even more severe. So white play, oops, that was so white plays this attachment. This is again the idea of a leaning attack. White isn't actually interested in reducing black's territory in the upper right, but he wants to build strength to help cover this weakness, so that when black runs this way, white will have more stones here, and so it's harder for black to survive, basically. Black resists, and resists towards this weakness, so to make it harder for white to get what he wants. White says, white's sticking to his plan, building strength, and they have this small pushing battle. Right, so black doesn't have time to follow up on the right. If black plays here, then white will play the same thing and get very strong. White is also building at the top as a consequence. Black can't really stop white from building the top and take care of his center stone at the same time. So black tries to take care of the center now that white has gotten stronger. White's way of attacking is still not incredibly clear. Like, white can try to attack it, but black can definitely run up through here to link with these, run this way. There's still, and black might even live in here. It's still not entirely clear what's going to happen. So white approaches. This move is high to affect the center, but it also helps develop some points at the top, and white's pretty happy with that. This is a vital point. I'm not entirely sure why black played here. It's a vital point, and it makes the push at M13 much more severe. So it indirectly helps, and it gains points, but it might be a little greedy. White, these are forcing moves in a sense, so white plays elsewhere. And by forcing moves, I mean they already did their job of helping reinforce this weakness from the original moyo. So white doesn't mind too much if they he can kind of throw them away. They already fulfilled their purpose in stopping black from running that way. So white follows up on his threat, which was the F16 stone. This is a really severe pincer. And again, this is indirectly making the center weaker for black and making this area stronger for white. So it's a pretty good exchange. Black plays here. If black, normally your first intuition is to play here, and normally this is fine, but if black comes out, it's not clear that this group is going to be too strong either. It also gives white a lot of points. So black would rather play safer, so he only has one weak group in the center to worry about, rather than having to deal with two. White keeps the pressure up. White is very thick and strong, so white can play very severely. That's one of the benefits of playing this, well, of getting to the thick Moyo part of the game. This is a very nice Tesuji for linking up, building points, threatening the 2 stones. It's also probably why black played kind of submissively over here, because black wants to take Sente. And now white says he wants to attack these 2 center stones. And white, he has strength here, he got some strength here, and a little bit here. So now these 2 black stones really only have one way to run. They can only run to this side, which is already a little bit hard, right? All the other ways kind of has white stones blocking them. So white decides now is a good time to attack and to cut black. So white cuts, and then black is trying to activate the Aji, threatening to capture this stone, threatening to kind of squeeze the J11 stones. White fixes the Satari, and black, right? Black's main point was Miai, so black follows up on the Miai of squeezing these stones or trying to abuse the Aji there. And black pulls back. At this point, the game is all about your ability to read and your fighting strength. How well can you convert the rest of your Moyo into points, and how much can you bully black? Black tries to make shape. Black is making shape. Remember, when you're attacking, you don't have to kill, but you have to just make it difficult to live while still profiting. So at this point, white has profited a fair amount of points over here. Is that enough to win the game? And white already had the bottom, but is that enough to win the game? Not quite yet. The right hand is really big, and if we think of it, the bottom is maybe equal to the left corner and the bottom right corner together, but there's still this big area here, and it's much bigger than this portion, and black can still develop points at the top. So white has to keep the pressure up. White doesn't have time to play a defensive or territorial oriented move like this. White has to keep the pressure up by attacking black. Black is trying to link up. Normal Tesuji stuff. White follows up. And black comes out. So white again. White is profiting in the center. White could just take these stones. White would be very happy to take these stones, but is it enough to convert this Moyo? If white just takes the stones, then black is pretty happy. Black can peep and maybe try to make Sabaki inside using these as a sacrifice, right? Push, or maybe Hana. And then linking up. This is a big profit for black. It's not entirely clear how white can stop black from coming in. So even though these stones would be nice, black doesn't just want them. If you have the choice of attacking or gaining immediate profit, but you have to give up your attack for it, or you could continue to attack the whole group, it's 90% of the time better to continue attacking the whole group, unless you know for sure that the profit is enough to win. So white links up, threatening to cut, and then takes this profit. And by saving these 2 stones, it's important to note that there's still weaknesses on both sides. So white can continue to harass black. Black comes in. White defends. This is actually pretty key because in combination with the peep and jumping in, it can be kind of scary. So this connection is very strong. Black says he wants to take care of this corner. This corner is not entirely safe. I'm not really sure what the status is. My guess is Ko with the Hane block Atari. But I'm not entirely sure. White keeps harassing, and then white plays a very nice Tesuji to try to come back. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, I guess this was the best way for white. So white's just trying to make points here, and he's going to have the ability to reduce black's corner. White's already converted some cash in the center, some on the bottom, and on the left, upper left-hand side. And white is keeping in reserve the threat to pull these two stones out to attack black. So black can't be too aggressive here. And black converts that, and white comes into the side, right-hand side. At this point, most of the discussion about Moyo is, for the most part, over. We saw how white had a very loose framework at the start, and then that framework got converted into a thicker framework from this cap, and then the response to black's A3 invasion. And then from the left hand, from having a very thick Moyo, then we see how Kitani deals with black's invasion by not responding immediately, but by using leaning attacks to build strength. And from those leaning attacks, then developing a good attack, and then now it's mostly endgame, right? Black can reduce and white can reduce, and the rest of the game, I think, is mostly counter reductions. There's a bit of fighting. I don't know. This seems strange. Like, I'm pretty sure Hasegawa is just trying stuff. It does force white to capture these stones, but at the same time, white gets so many stones on the outside and in the center. This is a nice Tesuji, and white cuts. They play out the rest of this semi-eye, or up to here, but white wins. And so the game really ends. A little bit back. The game is really over about here. And we can see how Kitani's Moyo strategy paid off. I feel like there's actually a lot to talk about on Moyos, so I might do my next couple videos talking about different ways of using Moyos. I'm a little early on time, so actually I'll pull up another game. I was looking at this earlier. I don't remember everything exactly. This is a game between Takemiya and Fujisawa Hosai. If I can remember it. Takemiya is known for his cosmic, quote-unquote, go, or very Moyos and oriented go. That's not the move. At this point, Joseki says white should respond on the bottom to keep developing, but white's not going to die in the corners, so white plays Teneki to play a faster opening. Fujisawa is pretty known for his territory-oriented play. Yes, Takemiya is very cool on and off the Goban. I've met him a few times. He's really awesome. But Fujisawa has an interesting story too. I think he's a cousin of Fujisawa Shiko, but I have to check that. Anyway, so Takemiya plays a very cool. Oh, not this one. A very cool game. I'm doing this from memory, so I'm going to make a lot of mistakes. He builds these thick positions on the upper left and the bottom right by giving white the two corners. And the next move is very logical, but also very in his style, right? So black plays M4 next, which again builds no points. It's all influence, all center oriented, but it makes sense because white neglected to play a move in the bottom right. So you can follow that. Can I change the player? Yeah, I think I can. And I think they're both 9p at this time. I could be wrong. Okay. So this is a kind of very broad position. I have a friend who plays like this, and it's very annoying to play against. So Fujisawa approaches on this side. This is, according to classical Go theory, the more appropriate side, because the top side is undercut. White could jump in here later, so it's hard. So black would need to spend an extra move to block at f18 if you wanted to build the top. So it's more likely that, or it's basically the case that the right side would be bigger for black because he has the bottom side sealed off here. Yeah, no problem. Black pincers. This makes sense, right? Because black doesn't want white settling on the right. Black could, in theory, defend, and then if white slides, black would pincer. But white won't slide. White will just make himself solid here. The two space extension, a lot of people say, is allows white to become over-concentrated, but it's also a very solid shape. And when white has all this territory already, and black has committed so much to the center and making a strong attack, it's perfectly fine to play this way. So black pincers right away to prevent that. And white takes the corner. I thought for sure white would jump, and if black almost always jumps, then white could press black low. Especially because I think white has this ladder. Yeah, so normally this move needs a ladder. In particular, this one. This ladder. Yeah, so white has this ladder. So I thought he would play this way to try to reduce the center. But white makes an interesting decision to take the corner instead. And then Takemiya is actually known for this. You can advertise my stream if you want. That'd be very cool. Takemiya, in this game in particular, made a very interesting comment. He said almost every other pro will criticize him for which direction he blocks. Because, as we said earlier, the upper side is undercut, right, by this white stone, so it's hard to develop that side. So most pros, conventional wisdom would say to block on this side, allowing black to build his Moyo on the right, and then maybe black would follow like this, and it'd be a pretty big Moyo. But Takemiya thought this wouldn't make use of these stones in the upper left very well. So he actually blocked on the Q17 side, which I'm not going to play the next move because it's kind of interesting. Well, I'll play it anyway. He blocked on the Q17 side because he thought that this kind of shape would make an even kind of center. And it's kind of interesting. Most pros wouldn't play this way because it gives away a lot of points, and white gets Sente to make a reduction next, which is what happened in the game. Also interesting to note is that normally in this Joseki, black plays P13 instead of Q14. Okay, Dallin. But this leaves weaknesses, right? At the O16 point and at the S12 area, and sometimes Q13. And when we were talking earlier about how you transition through the phases of building Moyos, one of the things you want is for your positions to eventually become very thick. And the more open the center is, the thicker you want your shapes to be, so that you can fight with more strength. If your Moyo is smaller, it's okay to have more weaknesses because the distance that your opponent in the room your opponent has to maneuver is less. But when you have this kind of whole board Moyo that Takemiya is setting up, then we can understand why he opts for this wall on the right, with this wall on the upper right, because it has no weaknesses. So it's much thicker, and he can fight in the center stronger, even though he does end up giving away more points, I guess. So white invades. And the only move, since black is emphasizing the center, right, you could attack this in many different ways. You could attack from here, and white will probably defend here. You could attack from here, but it feels very cramped, and white gets a pretty nice extension. So the only move for black is really to cap and keep emphasizing the center, which is a pretty crazy, pretty all-in strategy. I don't know, Dolan, you already seem like a troll. Just kidding. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe. White makes a base. This move's important to threaten to connect to the top. And black's next move is here. It works well with the cap. It has a follow-up on the side for making sure white can't build too much. And it also emphasizes the center. So Takemiya's strategy is pretty clear. White plays his next move here. Yeah, I think it's here. The reason for this move is because if white, for instance, responded on the left, then black could play here, which is Sente against the corner. White has to live. And after white lives, black could approach here and build a pretty nice area at the bottom. And it also expands kind of the center in a way. Maybe black would approach high if it's Takemiya. And it builds a nice area at the bottom, builds a nice center. We can see it's getting quite big. So white doesn't want that. And white plays this move. And I don't think anyone would have guessed what Takemiya's next move is. Anyone want to guess what Takemiya's next move was? Yep, Takemiya shoulder hit the 4-4 stone. You're absolutely right. I have to remember the exact order for how this happens, though. I think it's like this. Is it? Yeah. Something like this. I don't remember exactly the shape, but it's something like this. And at this point, white is forced to make a desperate invasion, but he still has a weak group at the top. So I don't even remember what the next move was. I think Takemiya just blocked here. I'm not entirely sure. Actually, no, this block was later. Yeah. But again, the idea or concept of making thick shapes to build a Moyo is kind of the same. Yeah, I really... Okay, give me a sec. I'm going to look up this game. I don't remember the rest. I think it was 1978 or 87, one of them. I don't see it. Well, yeah, this is why I didn't do this game, because I didn't prepare for it. But the game follows that black attacks this group. White tries to make some sabaki in the center also, but white can't manage enough of both of them, and white collapses. Interestingly enough, though, there's another game that they played. No, oh, I'm on the other tree. Fujisawa and Takemiya actually played this opening twice in their career, and I think it deviated here. I think in later games Takemiya played this one, and then he did some sort of weird extension at the top. But it's interesting to see how like players will play the same openings against each other over repeated times. Yes, Takemiya won. He won by resignation. He killed this group in the center. I guess while I'm at it, I'll show the game that's considered Takemiya's masterpiece, but I have to look it up because I'm not that good. This is Takemiya. I'll change the names again. This is considered Takemiya's masterpiece. I didn't want to show this because it doesn't show you how to use a Moyo, as opposed to just building a huge Moyo that your opponent never dealt with and you win. That's basically what this game is. It's very cool. It's a very cool game, and it's a game that you can learn a lot about direction and direction to play in the center from. But it's not a game you can use to learn about like how to attack. I'm not really a Takemiya fan, but people are asking for Moyo games, and when I was studying in Japan and I studied Japanese games, Takemiya was the Moyo player. So I learned Moyo from Takemiya. I think, yeah, if you watch a lot of my other videos, I talk about Gosegan a lot. Gosegan's probably my favorite player, although I think Kitani's really cool too. They're both cool. So white approaches, black backs off, white slides, and then black approaches here. This is fairly normal. White attaches. Rin Kaiho is a pretty patient player, I guess you could say. He's known for like just playing very patiently, letting your opponent do what he wants, and then trying to invade or make a big upset kind of style. I feel like a lot of pros are like that, especially these days. They're all like territory, patient, and then giant fight because I'm gonna lose or something. Actually, I think this is one of the first games that this move was played. I've read in some reports that this was an invention by Takemiya, but I feel like I've seen Fujisawa Shuko play it too, so I can't really say. White defends the top. White has a lot of options. White could follow up, but then when black defends the top, the upper area becomes very big. So white usually plays here and it's kind of become a Joseki. Let me remember the rest of the game. Yeah. So black pincers. This is a very popular move these days too. This is all one way. White plays here as a ladder breaker. Black takes, and I think white slides next. Yeah. So white is like, I mean, white's not just getting points. Like this slide has other meanings too. It's aiming to undercut and take away the points on the right. But Takemiya doesn't really care. He's very stubborn in a sense. He sticks to a center-oriented strategy. And then at this point, white's like, you have too much center, and white has a fair amount of territory. So white jumps to try to erase some of that potential. I read this G14. What? TP? TP, explain. Explain yourself. What is G14? G14. G14? The jump? Maybe my chat was lagging and I'm not sure. So Takemiya reinforces the connection in this shape by making this exchange. Times like this, I need a second monitor. And then Takemiya's plan for the center sticks to the same plan. It's a cap. Who would have guessed? Takemiya wants the center. Okay, see a TP. And white invades. White invades by approaching. It's similar idea as the last game. The upper side is still open. White can jump or slide up over here. So when white invades, white wants to reduce the area that's biggest for black, which would be the side away from the weaknesses, this area. And Takemiya plays, again, a very interesting move. Most pros would not play this move. They might play it if there was slightly different circumstances, but this pincer is really close to the Q10 stone. And later, white can just erase all the territory that black gains here. So it's very it feels like the meaning of these stones are overlapping, and it doesn't build points right away. Black still needs another move to get a few points. So most pros wouldn't play it, but the benefit is White's response is fairly forced. White could play here. White could double approach, but because this K16 stone is here, it's a little iffy whether it's really possible. Right, this might come under a bit of a severe attack. Not really sure. But at the time, this high pincer wasn't, high counter approach wasn't seen as much, so maybe Takamiya would just figured that White would invade the corner, which he did. No question about which side to block on this time. And so this is a Joseki, and White kind of has the option to play wherever he wants now. Where do you think he plays? We know that Black's strategy is to keep building the center. He's basically given White the upper left, the upper right, the bottom right, and White has made some headway in taking control of the bottom left. But when we think about how Moyos work, or frameworks work, you can't leave any weaknesses. If you leave weaknesses, then you give a crack for the whole Moyo to fall apart. So Black, for Takamiya, decides to connect up his stones and make this very solid. It's kind of the only move. So now Rin is trying to find a way to reduce the center. You want to reduce from the area where Black has the most weaknesses. Well, okay, let's look at weaknesses. There's sort of some Aji here, but it's not that big. There's a little bit of Aji here, but Black is fairly strong at the bottom, and White can't jump far enough from C5 or S5. And then there's some cutting weaknesses on the left. Out of those, it seems that the cutting weaknesses are probably the most vulnerable. And there's another option. White could defend, but in terms of the scale of the Moyo, maybe Black wouldn't play there, Buckley here. It seems like Black's is bigger, even with the corners, and White still has holes in his Moyo. So White tries to find a way to break in by attaching here. Black wants his center. White says, what about the stones on the left? What are you going to do about these? And Black's like, you can have them. I want my center. Black pushes. This is important. When you have thick positions, like thick and strong, you know, this wall, the bottom wall, kind of the top, then you want to try to play as severely as possible, because you have to get every point out of every point back that you can after you've given away so many points. So pushing is important. If Black just connects, then White's pretty happy. White gets a lot of points on the side and is pretty solid. So Black pushes, making looking at the weakness in these two stones, while also shortening the liberties of these. It's fairly normal. White says, I want the stones on the right, or on the upper left. Black's like, you can have them. And White extends, Black pushes. Oh, wait, sorry, Black doesn't push. Black cuts. Again, this is a very severe move. It helps the push at D11. It also reduces the liberties of these stones, indirectly helping these cutting points that Black has. White cuts. Black needs to defend, otherwise he loses half his stones. Then pushes again. And basically this is the rest of it. Black decides, you can just take all these stones. That's totally fine. Just take them all. I want another really strong, thick wall on the bottom. And you might be thinking, well, that's fine. Black was originally invested in this center area too. Can't White just, poke out here, jump out here? Isn't that dangerous? And the truth is, it's dangerous if you want those stones. Also, white needs an extra move plays here. I think if white plays elsewhere, black can push up, threatening the Ataris. And then this is a capturing race, and it looks like black wins. White has 4 liberties, black has not clear, but let's make this exchange. It's 3, 4, and then if black connects more liberties. Oops. So white defends. And then this is a similar position to the last game, where black has built up this really big center area. So, having seen the last game, does anyone think they can find the next move? Yep, it's this shoulder hit. Yes, Takemiya plays another shoulder hit that against the 4-4 point, which is very unusual. It's especially unusual because it showed up in 2 of his games and not just 1. But it basically doesn't give white a lot of options. Normally you don't see it because the continuation allows black to gain a lot of points, or white to gain a lot of points in the corner. But in this case, the points in the corner are not as big as the points in the center. That's basically all there is to it. White comes back at this point to make use of this opening. And so now the question is, what does black do? Does black try to help his top stones? Does black concentrate on taking the center? Does black Tenuki and follow up on the bottom left? The thing is, if you try to save your top stones or help them more, then moving into the center is really, really huge, especially when moves like this still threaten to cut off the stone you just saved. So then you have to like defend again, and then white's like, yay, I killed, half your points. For similar reason, you can't really play elsewhere, so you have to take control of the center. That's pretty normal. Then white pushes, saying, okay, but you still have weaknesses. Black blocks, white hanes, and black extends. This is similar to the case with the 3 stones on the upper left. Black is saying, I don't really care if you take them. You can take these guys too. This is, you're getting 40 points, but I'm getting like, who knows how much, 100, 120 points in the center. It's actually really hard to count center points because they're so big. But, yeah, black's like, I'm totally happy giving that to you. I will take the center. White pushes, black extends, white makes cutting points and then cuts. If I remember, it's like this. Let me just check. Yep. And then black Ataris. White is trying to find ways of breaking into the center. White pushes. This is kind of interesting as not Zente. Black manages to kill and cut off the white stones, which means that white is trying to use these stones and these cutting points and shortage of liberties to make Aji to live in the center. But it's not necessarily clear how white's going to do that. Oh, white didn't play there. White played here. Yeah, so again, making use of the cut and Aji to try to break into the center. Same idea, but Takemiya has very good reading because he's a professional. And so he's confident in not letting those live, of not letting them break in. Black saves his stones, white saves his stones. And then black makes a very aggressive move. He cuts in here. Notice one of the benefits of having a huge center is that all the ladders work for you. So black only has to worry about the net. White makes this exchange before living. Black could take the points, but giving this up is pretty big and leaves a cutting point at F11. And later the squeeze at J7 is also very big for white, so it's better for black to reinforce his weaknesses. defends, defends. And then white makes this attachment. So even the thing, so black ignores this and plays down, just to be clear, and white follows up. The thing is, even if white manages to live in the center, now white is giving up this huge corner, and just living in the center doesn't mean you can reduce all of it. You're going to be under severe attack because you don't have shape. So black can consolidate a lot of the rest of the Moyo while still getting points in the bottom left, which is pretty nice. So they go for a trade. White takes the center, black reinforces and takes this huge side. So black's already been compensated basically for the exchange in the upper left, right? This is about the same as this space. And then the rest of the game, it comes down to this upper right corner and bottom right corner for white against the black center. But white's group in the center is also not too secure. White decides to play here. It's pretty big. But then black defends the side. This side alone is worth the two corners basically. So with the center area, black is ahead. Makes an exchange, cuts for Aji. Black extends here, reinforcing the cut. Makes him stronger, indirectly makes white weaker. Not there. White plays a nice Tsuji to capture the 5 stones. These ones. Or I guess the 4 stones and maybe that one. And then black's next move is also very in the style of Takemiya. He's like, well, I got my points, I got this point, I want the center again, I'm just going to cap. Stop you from moving in this direction. Caps are pretty strong. They're very good at what they do. They stop the opponent from moving in that direction. White's like, no, I want to go this way. Black's like, I'm not letting you. Oh, sorry, not this way. It doesn't really matter. Black guitars, if white extends, black will connect. There's no way to save these stones. So white Atari's here. Oh no, it doesn't. White forces first. Ah, I see. White forces a few times. Black lives. Before playing here, white's basically in desperation mode at this point. White's, like, his center group is also not clearly alive, but if he doesn't break into the right, he's too far behind. So at this point, black is just trying to consolidate his win. And the most important thing to do when you're winning is to make sure that you don't get greedy and you don't leave weaknesses. So so earlier, right, black could, instead of answering this, black could try to kill this group. It's probably possible. It's not really possible because there's 2 cutting points, but black could connect. Actually, I don't know. Not really possible yet. But like this kind of move, black could be tempted to do this and try to kill everything, right? This is a fake eye. This is not an eye yet. There's no real space for another eye, and it might be possible, but it's also a really easy way to lose the game. Black just pulls out. White could connect, but then black has too much, so white is forced to go all out and try to kill it all. White plays some nice forcing moves, but before trying to live. And black connects here. Now the left-hand side is almost dead. White plays here, and now it's a giant capturing race, right? Between this group, and this group. Who's gonna die first? Well, it's actually pretty easy to read this out. The game ends here. This wedge Tsuji is really nice because it makes this a false eye, and this is almost a false eye. So it forces white to fill in his own liberties later. and it's pretty clear that black can win this race after here. White could force, black connects, white forces, black goes here, white goes here, Atari, Atari, Atari. Black still has 3 extra liberties. He's totally fine, and white doesn't have enough space to do anything. Okay, so that's basically what I wanted to talk about for Moyos. I might find some other Moyo games to talk about tomorrow or next week, but I feel like the first game, the Kitani game, is really good for understanding how to use a Moyo and the natural development of Moyos. And then the next 2 Takemiya games, or 3 Takemiya games, they're pretty good for showing you I don't know, those are more fun more than anything. They're just fun to see, like, this giant space develop. It's also fun to see, like, creativity, I guess. You see, like, moves that are generally not considered good by professionals, and then, like, the shoulder hit to the 4-4 point and stuff. So it's really fun to see that. I can't say what I mean. It's not. I can't say it's bad to play in that style, but it's definitely harder. Yeah, but the first game, the Kitana game, is really good to look at. I've looked at it a few times. You can learn a lot from it. Yeah. Are there any questions in my Twitch chat with my 3 viewers? I'm guessing no, so I'll just end the video here. Okay, thank you for watching. I'll be back tomorrow. Oh, really quick announcement. Not this weekend, but next weekend is the 2015 Creators Invitational that is being casted by Durin, or Bath. It's being casted by Baths. It'll be on his stream, probably on my stream, probably on a few other people's streams. It should be really fun. Lots of people, lots of players. They're all pretty good, widespread, like level-wise, but they're all pretty solid. And yeah, should be really fun. So tune into that. It's at 4 p.m. on on the February 7th, and I think Sunday too, but I have to check. Okay, thank you for watching.